So I guess the background is we're trying to have a talk, so we want to kind of summarize what we did on a more monthly basis. So both call it like little features and then try to say like, here are a bunch of big things that we're aiming for each month and we want to do that. So as part of that process, we want to like loop in this kind of hangout and just talking about what we've been working on for the past month as a regular kind of thing. So on that note, I thought I'd start just a couple minutes showing some of the most recent changes in Docs, so then leave you guys, at least 30 minutes to ask whatever questions you have.
And actually, do you guys want to do an around the Hangout intro? Tell us about who you are?
Yes.
Start with Charles.
I'm Chuck Stanicki. I work at Vegas PBS, also a Google certified teacher.
All right, and I am Eric Kurtz. I'm the Technology Director at North Canton City Schools in North Canton, Ohio. We're a Google Apps for Education school district and have been so for 2 years. I also run the website appsusergroup.org to support schools who are using Google Apps.
Cool. Jeff Harris, one of the product managers on Google Docs.
And I'm Christian Serrano. I work at Georgia State University, and I'm a Google Apps user as well.
And I think you guys know me, but I'm Teresa, and I'm the community manager.
Cool. Okay, so let me start by just showing really quickly a couple of the features that we did recently. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully this will just magically work. Can you guys see? Yes. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. So first feature I wanted to show was customizable styles in documents. So this is the ability to configure your document kind of a little more rapidly. And the way it works is you look at this doc, which is just Alice in Wonderland, and you see that there's like a bunch of text in it. Before, if I wanted to change like all of the headings beside these pictures, I would have to manually select each heading and make the formatting changes. Now you can do it a little more efficiently. So I can say that I want this heading to be nice blue, and then I can right-click on it and say update heading 3 to match the selection. So now all the heading 3s in the document are just going to match this particular one. And if I scroll up, same kind of thing where they all match. So it makes things a lot more efficient. The other thing that one of the more subtle aspects of how this works is that there's a level of inheritance between the default text that you have in your document and all of the headings. So if I want to change the font of my document in one go, I can do that by selecting some regular text in my document, updating it to something like Calibri, and then redefining normal text to match the selection. And the whole document is going to change, including the headings. So the headings have the same font as the regular text, so they also inherited that change. If I want to change the heading font to something else, I can just do that. And red, and I get updated. So the heading's now its own font, and normal text is a different one. So that's the styles feature. This is something we've actually been working on for ages. It's one of the kind of those core word processing features that if you start to build really, really big documents, it becomes pretty important to be able to format them in bulk. So we're excited about that. The other awesome thing about this feature is using it to save default styles. So I've got this nice set of styles in my document now with red titles and a light blue heading 3, and I can actually say use this as my default styles. And what that's going to mean is that, I switched to using my default styles in this doc, which is actually not what I meant to do. Let me go back and do the other things. So what I can say is save as my default styles, and that's going to mean that every new doc I create is going to look like this. So you can pick your default font, you can pick your default titles and headings, and then you can save those as your default styles, and all your new docs will look like that, which is pretty awesome. So that was feature 1 that I wanted to show. Feature 2 was sparklines, which is something that probably a lot of you have heard of. In general, spreadsheets are kind of all optimized for making like big, complicated charts, and sparklines are taking a stab at how to make really, really simple charts for just at-a-glance visualizations. So in this example, what I'm using is Google Finance. So there's a Google Finance function in Google Spreadsheets that looks up basically stock data. I'm saying that I want currency information, and I'm going to compare a couple of cells. And then I want to draw a sparkline of that currency information over the past 30 days. So from today until today minus 30, and that's going to be the range of my spreadsheet. So what I can do is I can do that, and that's actually the trading rate of the European dollar, the euro against the US dollar, and then I can drag it down and just autocomplete, and you can see, like, in general, the US dollar is doing really well over the past 30 days, which is kind of a cool thing to visualize and hard to visualize with traditional charts. So that's thing number 2 I was going to show, and then the third thing I wanted to show was just forums. So really basic thing. One of the big focuses we have this year in Docs is going to be kind of making it easier to work with other people, especially in the context of social applications like Google Plus. So what I can do in this one is say, like, my computer's kind of freezing because of the Hangout. I've got a forum. I can call it, like, let's plan a reunion. Then I can say, where should we go? And I can say that I want a multiple choice, Vegas, San Francisco, Paris, take this question, and then I can actually, so basic form, I'd probably make something more sophisticated, and then the new thing that we added is the share option. So I can press it, that will save the form, it will give me this option to share to Google+, help me make a plan, and then from here I can do the usual autocomplete stuff in Google+, where I can choose from any of my circles and share it just explicitly with those people. When they see it in the stream right now, they'll still have to click back into the forum to actually submit their responses, but that's a flow we're looking to improve. So those are a few things that we launched this week. If you check out the blog post, like, one other notable one that we actually launched a bit earlier this month that is really, really awesome is the ability to insert images from a stock photo gallery. So if you go to Documents or Presentations, you can go Image Search, you can pick stock photos, and then you can pick any term you want. If you want to find photos that represent teamwork, you can do that, and you get a bunch of photos that are really good stock photos for teamwork or, you know, sports. So basically the idea here is, like, we're going to give you not as many photos, but really, really high quality and kind of optimized for finding by specific terms. So it's pretty useful. So those are the things I want you to check out. I'm going to share my screen. And I figured, you know, it's 12:22 now. Why don't we say for, like, the next 30 minutes, I can just answer any questions you guys have, either about the stuff that we just launched or about Docs in general.
Hey, sure, Jeff. Had a quick question about the stock photos.
Sure.
Because I'm in a school district, and thanks, that was fantastic. That was sort of a ninja one you guys put in there about a month ago. I saw that one. I was like, hey, whoa, where'd that come from? And so shared that with everybody, and we all got excited. But I got some questions back from some educators who are, of course, always concerned about copyright. They were not able to find anywhere their notifications saying, you know, what the usage rights were on those photos. Do you know what that is? I told them, I assumed, you know, this was perfectly fine in whatever use, but it was not. We were not able to see if it was Creative Commons or what.
To make that clear, they're fully licensed for any kind of reuse, whether it's commercial or personal. So you can feel free to use the stock photos.
Excellent, I appreciate that.
What other features did you guys find? Which was your favorite feature from the most recent launch?
Say it a little louder.
Which was your favorite feature from the most recent launch from January update?
I'd have to say for me it was styles. Our style sheet. I thought that was really cool. That was a big one for me.
Are there other aspects that you would want to see? We kind of put this one out there, but there are more things we could do. So I'd be curious if there are other pieces of functionality there that you'd want.
Well, I noticed that with the styles that we have now, it's sort of like defining existing styles. And what I'm curious about is about creating new, unique styles as well.
Yes, that is something we don't support yet. It's definitely, I would say, like, the two directions. We're not working on these right now, but the two places that we would want to take it are, one, let you define whatever styles you want. So if you want, like, a block quote style, or you want a style for, if you're coding, like all my engineers want, like, a style that's just for code in the documents, being able to create your own custom style, being able to create multiple style sets, so you can actually have, like, one style set that's for all the docs that are shared externally outside of your company and one that's like really informal and more fun. And that kind of thing is pretty interesting for me too. I'd probably say we'd focus on the on being able to create your own styles first, but they're both things we want to do.
That's great.
That was going to be my next question is, how are you going to relate styles to sharing rights? And how will we be able to share styles? Would a company be able to promote a certain style set as the standard? Because I can see that would be pretty attractive on an enterprise level.
Yes. Can't really do that right now. The best way you can share it, if this is something we've done and we've been using it internally, is if you go to a doc that looks really pretty, you could just grab that doc styles and use them for yourself. But that's really all we support right now. So I think we would want to support the idea of sharing styles. Because starting with just styles and like themes in a presentation is another thing you would really often want to share. So you have a great presentation theme that you've created, give it to other people, and we're thinking about how to do that. But
cool.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming like styles that we define, if we create a template out of that document, that it's then a sort of a distributable way of, or a way to distribute those style sheets.
That's correct. Yeah.
There's another question in the chat window from Chuck. He says, will there be an ability to create custom themes and forms? We are looking to create a form with our logo on it, but are only able to use existing themes.
So we'll say we don't really have anything to announce right now. This is probably the number one most requested thing from forums is the ability to do a little more customization. So it's certainly something the team is like looking at. At this point, we're more, I would say the main problem we're focusing on in forums right now is like how do we make it scale for more people. So we're kind of figuring out the infrastructure a little better. So right now, if you have a forum and you have 30 people that submit a response to a forum in 1 second, and actually like stop the forum from working. So we're making forms scale really well, kind of separating them out from spreadsheets so forms are a little more standalone. And then this is definitely one of like the features we want to do in forms the most.
Cool.
One solution you could do is use something like Google Sites to skin that page and then embed the form in that page.
You asked what of the updates do we like. I love being able to put forms in Google+. That's going to be really powerful, I think, because a lot of people are doing polls that are really informal, and being able to report that data back to a spreadsheet that you can use to analyze your responses, that's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
What other Google Plus kind of integrations would you guys want to see?
File sharing. Being able to share like a document or whatever with a circle.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Any file type, a PDF, whatever it might be.
I was actually working on that today. I wanted to share an ebook, and I had to go through several iterations to figure out how best to do that so people would be able to both view the ebook and download it if they wanted to. I ended up putting it in a public Google Doc, which I think is going to work okay, but more ways to share docs, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I know right now we can use the method of anybody who has the link, but
Yes.
I'd rather it be locked to specific users.
Yeah. So what do you guys think in terms of like the differences between the way sharing works in Docs versus Google+? Do you find Google+ like easier to share stuff? So why, or if not, why?
I can kind of appreciate Doc's sort of granularity because sometimes there's specific subsets of people that I want to share something with. I also often use the Google Groups, sharing with a Google Group feature, so that granting and removing access based on members of the group. So I like having that. And then, of course, I would like, in addition, to have the option to be able to apply it to a circle. Say, anybody in this circle in my Google Plus account can access this file.
Cool.
Hey, Jeff, speaking of Google+, question that comes up a lot in the education circles is, will that ever get down below, and I know this is more docs, but still I'm just curious, will it get below the higher ed and get down into the K-12? I see that with the new privacy policy out now, we're allowing Google Plus accounts down to age 13. I didn't know if that was an indication that we might be seeing a step toward a K-12 availability in the Google Apps for Education of a Google Plus rollout.
I think we want to support Google Plus for as many people as possible, but there are some pretty tricky legal issues if you go below 13. So that's something the team's still thinking through.
And along those same lines, I've been getting the question, and that is with the change in the privacy policy that we have. I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing some folks saying this applies to all Google accounts, but I'm hearing some folks say that the new privacy policy does not apply to the enterprise accounts, like the Google Apps for Education or so forth. Is that true, or does the new privacy policy affect everybody?
That's actually not something I feel answer one way or the other. I would expect it to apply to everyone, but I would think that I just have to read the terms a little more closely, and I'm not sure either way.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine.
I had a question going back to what you were saying about inheriting styles.
Yeah.
So if you change like the body text or the normal text, it'll change headings as well. Yesterday I was experimenting with that a little bit, but with headings specifically. So I changed heading 1, for example, but it didn't. That the change in the font didn't change to the other headings.
Yeah, so right now the way the inherited structure is set up is just everything inherits from normal text. The thinking being that a change to heading 1 doesn't necessarily mean you want to change all of the other headings. The thing that we'll probably do is expose a way to configure how inheritance works. So you can say this is the structure, these are the ones that inherit from each other. But for right now it's normal text is kind of the parent and everything else is a child of that.
I support visibility into inheritance. That's a good thing.
Yeah, because it is kind of a tricky feature, and we thought it was pretty powerful, but we were also worried about taking it too deeply into the behavior.
Yes. Trust your instincts.
I mean, even if it's a toggle for each style, like inherit from, and then you can pick whatever style you want it to inherit from, would be kind of nice.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably how it would work. Give me a question. Eric, any response to the Wall Street Journal article about Google Drive? I think we don't have anything to announce.
I was waiting for somebody to comment on that.
It was worth a shot.
Yeah. What else?
Well, if a question about the sparklines, that is kind of a new thing. Can you tell us, do you feel comfortable talking any more about how that functions, how that works? What sort of things can you throw inside of the, for arguments within the sparklines function? I saw the one you did as an example, but let me just say, for example, let's say I'm a teacher and I'm using a Google spreadsheet to keep my grades of my students, and I'd like to have a sparkline maybe that shows their average as it has changed over the 9 weeks. I mean, how much flexibility do you have with what you can throw inside of the sparklines function?
You could certainly do something like how their grades have evolved over time. I mean, I would say that any basic line chart, so if you have something that's a line chart, usually I think you can only do 1 or 2 axes, or sorry, 1 or 2 lines in the chart, or bars, you can do in a sparkline. So that example you could certainly do. I would expect most things that you could do with a single line chart, you could do in a sparkline. And we've got Help Center articles that kind of go over how they work a little bit more.
What do you guys feel about our new monthly blog launch process? So we're going to be writing about our new posts once a month. And
Yay! Good.
Yes.
Do it.
Cool. A random question from Bill. Will we ever be able to change ownership to an account outside of a domain? This would be helpful in apps for EDU. Assume graduates that would like to take their stuff with them. Yes, that is a completely reasonable thing to ask for. It is something I desperately want to do, and it's something we will do, but it's not something we're ready for quite yet. Mostly, the reason it's been difficult is supporting transfers in between domains opens us up to some kind of abuse vectors where I can just give a file to someone else and put it into their domain without them really approving it. And part of our thinking there is to really do this feature in the way that we want, we'll implement an approval flow where I transfer the ownership to you and you don't actually have the ownership right away. You kind of accept it before it actually becomes your property. And that's something that's a little trickier to do, which has been what's slowing us down, but it's definitely something we need to support.
Thanks.
Oh, go ahead. Someone else had a question? Okay. I haven't played around with this, but how do styles look when downloading the document as, say, a Word doc? And how does it translate to Microsoft Word's style structure?
Yeah. It should look good. So it should be exactly visually the same and also mapped to all of the styles that are in Word. So I think all of the styles that we've gone with, normal text, heading 1 through 6, and title and subtitle, are all styles that also exist in Word, at least in Word 2007 onward. So it should map over really well.
That's good news. I remember. Oh, go ahead. I'll tell the story, then I'll go give someone else my place. But I used to get such a thrill out of uploading Word docs into Google Docs and then going to HTML and stripping out all of the Word markup. But I think you're going in the right direction.
Follow up on the previous question about styles to Word, and I'm sorry if you covered this in your introduction. I connected late. If you upload a document from Word and it's using the same styles that match in Google Docs, heading 1, heading 2, will it inherit the styles from the Word doc, or will it use sort of the default Google styles?
It should inherit the styles from the Word doc. So.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to give my place to someone else. Thanks a lot. Keep doing this.
Thanks, Rachel. Bye. What else? What are you guys looking for us to do? If we could only give you one thing, what would it be? My usual monthly question.
Well, somebody commented in the chat, and I would like to know about it as well, is the ability to create a document offline or edit a document offline and then sync once online.
Yes, really, really, really important. That is something that's being actively worked on. It's unfortunately trickier just because the state of where offline is in the browsers is a little bit in flux, but it is something that probably, if you were looking at the document team, it is their #1 focus for sure, is making sure that everything works offline. And I think if you look forward, towards the end of this year, we're really aggressively aiming to have the entire suite work offline.
Is that something that's easy to pull off in the Android app as well? Or is it trickier?
It's probably, as we get better at doing this, it only gets easier. So I think a reasonable expectation is that all our apps should behave well offline.
Okay. I don't know if this is sort of redundant with the speculation regarding Google Drive. You don't have to comment on it. But I was playing around with the offline access for files on the Android app. I don't know if this is sort of redundant with the speculation regarding Google Drive. You don't have to comment on it. But I was playing around with the file. Okay. So I was playing around with the offline files, and I use PDFs a lot, and I store them in Google Docs. And when I open up, say, Adobe Reader on Android or Easy PDF Reader, typically it's able to show an index of all the PDFs that are stored on the device. Yeah. But it does not see anything that's stored offline from the Google Docs app.
Yeah. I don't know if we have any immediate plans to change that, but I actually just don't know any of the details there at all, so I can't really comment. I think the file system that we're using isn't necessarily the same one that most of the other apps are reading from. That's probably the difference. I'm not sure if that's going to change.
Yeah, because that's one big advantage that Dropbox has over the Google Docs app for file storage and offline access.
Do you find yourself, when you use the Dropbox mobile stuff, do you find yourself uploading files from your mobile device as well?
Yes, I do. Commonly, I'll download a PDF via the browser, and then I want to make a copy of it available on my desktop, so I'll just send it to Dropbox, and then I'm able to get it from there. without having to plug it in my phone and copy it over as a storage device and so on and so forth.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. That's actually really good feedback. So Charles was saying, speaking of Android, will there be better integration with mobile devices? I have a cold, so try not to talk too much. I would say, like, I mean, I already mentioned it, like, offline is probably one of the big pillars of things that Docs is focusing on right now. I would say mobile is another one. So we are making, like, really, really big investments in mobile, and I think there'll be a lot of pretty exciting things to announce over the next couple of months there. So it's only going to get better. Eric, question about Doc's chat history.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Because I'm in a school setting, there's certainly a kind of a tension between me pushing Google Apps out and then teachers getting fearful about, you know, how things get used. And of course, one of the first things kids do is find a way to use the collaboration tools to chat with each other and all those sorts of things, which I think is great. But the question has come up many times: if something inappropriate gets said, if something, you know, is put in the chat, is there a record of the chat history in a document, you know, off to the side there? Is there a way to get that, to print that out, to download it, to somehow access that if we needed to?
Right now there isn't. I think you are not alone in wanting this. This is probably the most asked for thing in chat, especially for the school spaces. I think the concerns often around, like, bullying, so kids are in a doc together and someone says something really inappropriate in chat and there's no real record of that happening. So that is something that we totally understand that use case and are looking to fix as soon as we have some time to invest in chat.
Well, that's excellent. And I mean, the point is, there's always going to be a way for kids to. I mean, if you're doing collaboration, this is going to happen. You just have to kind of embrace that. But it would those sort of things would help to ease some of the fears with some of the teachers to know, yes, we can take a look at that if we need to. That's excellent. Thank you.
Bill, you can share your features. If you want a suggestion, yeah. What's feature?
Yeah. This is something that's probably going to be in the minority, but there are some people who are. I'm also at an educational institution. We're pre-K-12, and we're Google Apps for Ed. We also happen to be a tablet PC school. So one of the most useful features, actually be an amazing feature for us, would be if Docs, at least the word processing document, would actually take something that was like digital ink. I know there's the drawing tool, but it's not exactly the same. Is that something you ever see as possibly on the roadmap, or that's, I mean, maybe with, you know, iPads and stuff getting popular?
So the idea is, like, you could just draw on the screen with your finger?
Correct. We're a huge user of OneNote, which is Microsoft's basically digital ink app, note-taking, but we're also a huge user of Google Docs. And at the moment, the reason we have to use OneNote for certain things is because there's no ink support.
So, yeah, and to clarify, do you mean also handwriting recognition?
Well,
or drawings only?
OneNote does both, but in all honesty, the handwriting recognition would be less important because, while it's nice, it's kind of a neat feature, it's not the big thing. The biggest thing is we have our students, all of our students were 1-to-1 in grade 6 to 12. They all have tablet PCs. In math, it is essential that they can basically write with a pen, and in science to a certain extent. So one of the reasons we can't use Docs for delivering certain materials in math is because kids need to be able to mark them up easily. So we have to use OneNote for that. We'd love to do it in Docs. We have teachers already using Docs. We have a math teacher who's a Google fanatic using Docs, but he can't use it for that piece of his instruction because of no ink support.
That's cool. I think that makes sense. That's, like, on the list of features that you want to do, especially in mobile. It probably mostly makes sense in mobile. I'm not sure we have a timeline, but that's a really cool use case. So, understood. Looks like I skipped Charles, who was saying, spreadsheets are not as fluid as when you use the desktop version. I know I can choose to use the desktop version, but I can't always get it to fit the screen. Do you want to explain a little more difference between the desktop and the other version that you are using? Charles. Oh, it looks like we can't hear you.
Pardon?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we kind of went over it before when you were talking about spreadsheets. I was just continuing before you had a chance to answer it. But when I'm on the mobile version, there's a link near the top that says use the desktop version. Yeah. And I'll try to do that because, I mean, it would work a little better, but I can't get the whole spreadsheet to fit, and scrolling around is a little challenging. And so it's just an extension of my first part of the mobile question.
That makes sense, yeah. Right now the desktop version isn't really designed for mobile stuff, but I think as we look to really invest in mobile, we'll get a lot better in that area. Diane, you had a question about forms?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So actually 2 questions. One, is there going to be, or is there maybe already, and I don't know, a way of, if I make a copy of a form that I used last year with students, to kind of clean it out and have a new version that doesn't have any responses in it without having to go in and delete all the responses from previous years? So that's one.
Don't believe, so let me just get out of the I don't believe we have a way to do that right now. I think forms are kind of a little too tightly tied with the spreadsheet at this point. So it's like the copying the spreadsheet really, and it also drags the form along. That kind of thing is something that we are looking to fix this year.
Cool. It would be neat if, when I make a copy to use for a new set of students, if I had the option, say, of, do you want to clean it out completely? Yeah. The other question was, I think I've seen somewhere, somebody had a Google spreadsheet that was filled in by a form, and instead of only having spreadsheet view and list view, there was also a record view.
Yeah.
We don't have that. I think Dana had that in a spreadsheet she had shared with us, or that we had filled in a form and we were able to see the results in. So I was like, oh, maybe that's only in-house or something. Is it something that could come along where we could, if I have 50 students fill in a form, I could opt to see each student's complete record of their response?
I actually don't know the details of that one at all, but I think it is a direction that we're playing around with, but don't have anything to work with.
Okay. That's something for the education sector we'd love to see, I think.
Yeah, that's
awesome. Okay, thanks.
Hey, Diane, make sure I understand what your question was there. Were you saying that you would like to be able to see, instead of it going horizontally across, to be able to see like a nice vertical list of one record of the student's response to a
yes.
So you can see it in one place? That's something that we've kind of just hacked ourselves in the past to do. Basically, I just made a second sheet in the spreadsheet, and then I just used formulas that basically would have one box at the top where you type in the record number you want, and then the formulas below would grab each of the columns, from that previous sheet, and then just transpose them, vertically down, so that you could see them and just print that one page. We have, different forms that get submitted that way. And then the person who needs to review it or do something like that can just say, okay, I'll take a look at record number 5, and boom, it'll just show those there in a way. So that's our workaround for it right now, so that we can at least see them and print out at least something that looks a little bit more readable than scrolling all the way across. So
right.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested in following up on that with you. Thanks.
Yeah, if you want to send me something, I'll share a copy of one that does that. That's fine.
Great. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's do like 3 more questions. So, from G+ comments, what will be done for better compatibility between MS Office and Google Docs? I think it's an ongoing process. At this point, we made, with the new presentation editor, we launched in October as an opt-in. It gets way, way better. We're looking to make a bunch of other improvements across our suite, but really, mostly at this point, I would say it's limited by the features that we support in Google Docs. So it's really hard to import a feature from Word until we actually build that feature in Google Docs. So this week we can start importing sparklines, and we can start importing styles, and as we roll out more and more features and more quality, just get better about that. So Charles was asking a question on forms. So you want to be able to hide the create your own form link that you see after you submit a form. We've heard that before. I think we are going to play around. You probably noticed that forms has got a ton of love in the past year. One of the, when we are revisiting it, we're kind of, I said, working through the infrastructure pieces right now to make forms a little more scalable. When we do revisit it, we really do want to do a lot more with that submission page, because it's kind of drab right now, not that interesting. So options in that direction are totally reasonable. You're not the first person that's asked for this in the form. Cool. Any last question? Ooh. Gotta wait to see what Bill types. Oh, that's your text. All right. Let's call it a day for today. We'll try to do these at least once a month. I think this is actually really useful. That e-ink stuff was something that I hadn't really thought about in the context of schools at the time, which is obviously really interesting, and it was pretty cool to see Eric suggesting some tips for how to do the records-based view as well. So really liking this. We'll try to do this every once in a while. I hope you guys keep joining in the future. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.